The YouTube viewpocalypse, where our viewership plummeted and we were having thoughts of existential risk for our entire livelihoods and the 100+ people who work here. And there were tough conversations going on about, like, what would it mean if our viewership was actually down to half of what it is? And it turns out that it was all YouTube's fault, and then it turns out it wasn't. I'm going to have to just read the notes on this one because buckle in. This has been a wild ride, and it's involved us, multiple members of the community. I'm not going to name them, because of, their privacy, and also they don't necessarily want to be public figures, but it has involved people that we know at YouTube. It has involved people in the ad blocking community. Let's get started. It seems like the YouTube viewpocalypse may not be YouTube's fault. Allegedly. I think. See that? Anyway, on Monday, September 15th, YouTube finally addressed concerns over view tracking that were raised by multiple creators over the last few weeks, saying in a blog post that it investigated the issue. TLDR is, and again, this shows why speculation can be extremely unhelpful. It has nothing to do with restricted mode, which was something that many users and some creators were speculating. And restricted mode is completely optional. It's a manual setting and has nothing to do with the recent age verification rollout. YouTube also stated that their viewership systems are working correctly and that there is no systemic issue that is impacting creators. Possible causes of view count drops include a return to baseline after a view spike, normal fluctuations in viewing habits. That was one of the first things that one of my contacts at YouTube brought up, is that we actually do tend to have a bit of a September hangover once the students go home for the summer. Go back to school, which is not where their homes are, unless they go to boarding school. But either way, it wouldn't be for the summer. It would be for the fall. Anyway. Competition from other channels and topics. And this is usually the response that I get from YouTube whenever I bring up issues with our viewership. They basically say, get good. And I say, okay, I'll do my best. Yes, sir. And number 4, this was kind of like slipped in there. Updates to ad blockers that could be impacting view count accuracy. Oddly specific compared to the other 3, which are basically just like, seasonality, also get good. The previous day, MMO YouTuber Josh Strife Hayes pointed out that his views from specifically computer users fell off a cliff, which would be consistent with the going theory that YouTube stopped counting views from devices that had ad block installed, which usually tend to be computers, since this may surprise our viewers, but most people, even the ones who are capable of installing a browser extension, are either too lazy or not technically proficient enough to install ad blocking on their mobile devices.
I would say, just to interject really quick, if you want a longer video to explain everything that's going on, his video specifically, I think, is the most well-encompassing right now. I haven't necessarily seen all of them, but his is really good.
Josh also theorized, like Google did, that a change on the ad blocker side could be to blame. Then on Tuesday, September 16th, GitHub user Scratchy, how do I pronounce that? I think, you know what? There's an X in there. I'm going to treat it as a variable. Their name is Scratchy. Identified a change to Easy List, specifically its affiliated Easy Privacy List, which is used by multiple ad blockers, letting them know what to block. Through their own testing, Scratchy found that this change appeared to block YouTube's view counters, which was then corroborated by YouTubers Jeff Geerling, Theo Joe, and probably some other very awesome people. Although adblock users could let YouTube register their views by simply disabling the Easy Privacy List in most popular ad blockers, Scratchy also published a custom filter that lets YouTube's view tracking URL through but leaves the rest of the Easy Privacy List enabled so users can let YouTube count their views while still protecting their privacy. Because, and this is a fun fact, most ads are also trackers.
And by most, I mean, technically some aren't, but you might as well assume they all are.
As of Wednesday, September the 17th, the Easy Privacy List is not filtering the YouTube view tracker. However, Some maintainers, including Ryan BR/fanboy, still think that easy privacy wasn't related to the YouTube issue at all. Is this the link to the somewhat spicy? No, okay. There was some spicy discussion that took place on GitHub, but this doesn't appear to be that spicy.
I think it's a different thread.
Yeah, that makes sense. Maintainers for EasyList, uBlock Origin, and other tools are still testing ways for ad blockers to balance ad blocking and privacy protection. Sorry, Freudian slip there. While also allowing YouTube to detect views properly. So the immediate crisis may be over, or it might not be. We probably need more data.
There's also some funky stuff where and I believe this has gone through in Josh Rife Hayes' video. I don't remember. But even YouTube Premium member viewership was impacted here because even if you had YouTube Premium, but then also ran ad block, which is a setup that I know a few people do.
Yep.
The telemetry data was still blocked. That's
even a setup that we've talked about how it definitely supports creators because from our understanding of it, it did support creators effectively better than allowing ads to run.
And it did.
And it turns out
up until
man, this reopens the whole ad block piracy conversation in a way that honestly is giving me PTSD shakes.
I saw some really interesting discussions. A lot of people don't really know how it works. I think there was a discussion saying oh, okay, but this doesn't really affect them at all. So why should I care? Because revenue's flat. It's yeah, AdSense revenue is, but not other things. Our sponsors, as far as my understanding goes, have been really cool about this, but especially if there's a sponsor looking at a prospective channel.
I think it's more that our business team are hard asses.
Oh, well, hell yeah.
I'm sorry.
Good job.
You want a discount because we're getting less views? No.
You didn't get an up count when we got more views? I don't know, whatever. But yeah, it's if there's and the sponsors that we currently have can look at referral rates that they had in the past and notice that nothing really changed and then things are fine. But if you're a sponsor looking at a prospective channel, your surface level view of them is often their view count. So if you're looking around and trying to view things and you see a tech creator, which might have a higher percentage of people running ad block, it's going to look worse. This did hit all of YouTube, but it disproportionately hit more tech-savvy audiences.
Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily mean tech specifically, but it does mean tech-savvy audiences. Yep. Makers, people who are going to modify their things more often, are more likely to throw in something like an ad block than someone who doesn't even know that the extensions for browsers even exist, which is a thing.
Which is a very significant proportion of the population. And I just want to make it clear, because there seem to be a lot of people who are still super confused about my stance on ad blocking. I don't use them. I have a policy internally here at work that we are not allowed to use them because it feels pretty hypocritical for us to, make our livelihoods off of ads and not, support the other channels and websites and services that we use in the same way that we expect to be supported. But as far as, whether other people should use ad block, we have always said that that's a personal choice. Luke and I have always owned that there were times in our lives that we pirated all manners of different kinds of content, whether for financial reasons or otherwise. And we've always maintained it's a personal choice. The only thing that I have ever asked people to consider is the very, very simple fact that ad blocking is circumventing the method of payment that exists for the content, so is functionally piracy, and you need to understand the impact of your actions. If you want the services and the content that you obviously enjoy enough to watch to exist, then you're either part of it continuing to exist or you're part of it not continuing to exist, and there could be an impact there. There might not be. We, luckily, have diversified our business in such a way that our revenues from LTT Store, for instance, actually exceed now our revenues from like Google AdSense by a country mile. But this is something that disproportionately impacts smaller creators. I mean, back when this viewpocalypse first hit, I was chatting with Dan about it after WAN Show because Luke, doesn't see fit to just even be in the office with us anymore. So he wasn't part of the conversation. But Dan was saying that he'd spoken with a couple of small creators already who were basically like, yeah, I mean, if this is it, if this is new normal,
dude, me too.
I'm back to my day job because this is not sustainable for me.
I talked to a non-insignificant amount of people that reached out because they were like, I really hope you have some information, because if you don't, I might be quitting this as a profession. That was a probably close to double-digit amount of different creators. I'm not even kidding.
Very large percentage.
This was terrifying for people. It hit our niche harder than probably anyone, or at least close to it. Yeah, and like the whole get good thing from YouTube, I can't be too mad about that.
I get it.
Sometimes, honestly, they're just right.
Yeah, YouTube it's a meritocracy mostly, with asterisks.
Yeah, and like I honestly understand their response. At first, I was kind of annoyed, to be honest, that it was buried in a blog post. It was buried at the bottom of a blog post and stuff. But they have an interesting problem because there are creators complaining about views right now that this didn't affect that much. Yeah. So how do they deal with this? Because if they say, oh, it was just ad block, then all those creators that didn't have a ton of ad blocking in their audiences might expect their views to come back.
Yep. But they might not, because they might need to get good.
Yeah. So it's tough because YouTube is YouTube, as always. So you're competing against everyone all the time. Your niche is also competing against everyone, like as a unit, because if you get suddenly really interested in some, 3D printing. There's a 3D printer back there. If you get really interested in 3D printing, you might get suggested other 3D printing channels as well. So like your niche is competing as a whole, your channel is competing as an individual. And if all of this isn't fighting really hard for eyeballs, you're going to start falling behind.
And like it's amazing how much people's interest in things can change over time. Take, for example, help with mortgage. Okay, this is an interest that obviously spiked, after the 2008 financial crisis, and to the point that Luke and I have been talking about recently, how we're sort of terrified about what things are looking like economically right now. It has spiked again to the greatest interest in Google search results literally ever last month. Sorry to flashbang you guys with, oh my God, what is going on right now?
There's some, I know I've heard some counters to that. I think it's legit, but some people are saying there's just more people on the internet than there were before.
I mean, that could account for part of it, but I don't think that accounts for the changes since July of 2019.
One really interesting thing is if you look up foreclosure, it's not doing the same thing, which makes me think that we are in the pre-times.
Yeah. Well, they say you can't know if you were in a recession until something like a year after it started or something like that. Anyway, all I know is I was talking to the LTT Store team about the plan for Black Friday, Cyber Monday, and I was like, hey guys, this could be a hurrah. I don't want to say last hurrah because I think we're going to survive to hurrah again, but it may be one of our only hurrah opportunities for a little while until things kind of settle.
Yeah, I mean, I had a conversation with someone recently about they're talking about how like their viewership is still high, but their conversions on things are going down, and they were wondering why. And I had the conversation about the insufficient funds error that we had been seeing, and it was like kind of a dark convo. Because like what you're saying, this might be a hurrah of sorts.
For context,
if people don't
hold on. For context, if you didn't watch that previous WAN show, Luke and I discussed how there has been a significant, measurable, noticeable, statistically significant uptick in people's non-renewals of Floatplane being due to the specific error, insufficient funds, which we laid out very clearly is not something that we want people going through to support us on Floatplane. We absolutely value your support, but if it's that tight, then we'd rather you buy food. Okay.
And you can chart it out over time. The error rate goes like this.
Yeah.
So
almost like this.
But yeah. To be honest, I bet you it tracks that pretty accurately.
So anyway, sorry. Carry on. You were having the dark conversation.
No, yeah, but part of the conversation was like, hey, I mean, if there isn't money out there, like if the people don't have funds, they can't support you. And we got into the conversation of like, where is it going first?
Yeah.
And credit cards, housing, food.
It's been a rough time to be a canary.
Up. Yeah. Yeah, Jonathan posted in Floatplane chat. He said canaries are dying left and right. It's like, yeah, this is. I mean, these are some of the first things to go, right? Like, entertainment usually does pretty well in recessions.
However, I feel like the way people spend on entertainment is really different. Like when we talk about entertainment as being kind of recession-proof, one of the main industries where this comes up is the cinema, right?
Yeah.
But cinema expenses are kind of like they're a night out. You know, they're a splurge item at any point, right? And people do tend to still want to kind of treat myself once in a while, even when times are pretty tight. And a movie, you know, a night at the movies, I mean, these days it's a little different, but a night at the movies used to be like a pretty affordable treat myself, you know, whether it's a date or whether it's taking the kids out and catching a few Z's at the matinee or, you know, whatever it is. It was relatively affordable. Whereas now, the way that we're talking about spending on entertainment, I personally think the LTT screwdriver is a great tool that, you know, you should just buy if you need a fantastic screwdriver with the Trust Me Bro warranty. But for a lot of people, that's like a $70, I want to support this channel expense. You know, it comes down to sort of how people are making that decision. Or it could be a $5 or a $10 a month subscription for behind the scenes and early access, like on Floatplane. I'm not singling out other creators just because I want to use ourselves as the example here. But there's lots of ways that the creator economy asks a lot more from you than necessarily a night at the movies. And it's a different kind of rationale. Like if times are tight, I might continue to spend a bunch of money on OnlyFans, but if I am, boy, is that ever terrible prioritization.
I honestly suspect that might be one of the last things to go for a lot of people.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I even brought it up. I didn't want to hear you say that. Really, dude? Although I do think that there will be a bit of a K shape to it. I think that the top creators are probably going to be the ones that survive, while the other like 98% that were just barely sort of scraping by on the platform or doing it part-time, those are probably going to be the ones that are more impacted. That does tend to be the way things go, is consolidation in these times.
If I can throw my theory out there, it might differ slightly. And I could be super wrong here. But it might differ slightly because... Sorry, I just saw LMG Community said the bottom creators, pun intended. That's.
Are you a Ross or are you a Joey?
But what I was going to say is, I suspect some people are using that platform for companionship at this point, and anyone that feels like they have a connection with the person, however obviously fake, is going to hold on to that.
That's a yikes. Anyway, did you want us to show these lovely graphs, Dan, and bring things back on topic, or do we want to talk more about...
Also, do you have anything to add about the Adpocalypse stuff?
Not particularly at the moment. It's all a bit confusing.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, a big part of the confusingness...
Have they been committed? Have they been removed? Is it UBO? Is it temporary? Is it not? There's like an internal debate. for these block lists.
And are we even fully back?
I don't know.
Because
hard to say.
there's a pretty strong argument for us only being partially back.
Yeah, like have a look at this. So here's where we see the decoupling of our typical tracking between desktop and mobile views. So that's blue and green here. So here's the viewpocalypse where desktop views go. See you later, buddy.
10th, August, 11th.
Yep. And then they're still not here. And I don't believe that the LTT audience just like suddenly stopped using computers as much.
One thing is we may have been basically removed from the algorithm, right? Suddenly we're not getting any views.
So I actually chatted with a fairly senior member of YouTube over that topic yesterday because it occurred to me in our dashboard, for instance, a lot of the time it'll say things like, hey, this video is getting a lot of views because it appealed to your core audience, so it's like gaining extra reach. And I was like, so if our views aren't tracking properly, does that impact the likelihood of our videos being suggested and gaining virality since they'll be recorded as low view videos? And it was explained to me, and, you have to always take everything, not with a grain of salt, because this is someone that I believe would be very honest with me. So I'm not saying that there's any sort of distrust, but you have to take everything through the lens of the person who's delivering it. And their lens is as someone who works in raw numbers and who if you cut them open, would bleed red. But like YouTube, so they're very pro the platform and justifiably so. They work hard to make it, in my opinion, this is my opinion now, the best video platform on the internet. Full stop. Period. YouTube is a technological marvel. I have called it the whatevereth wonder of the world many times. I think it has all the importance of like the Library of Alexandria in terms of the wealth of human knowledge and humanity that it contains. I love YouTube as a whole. Doesn't mean I love everything about it, and it doesn't mean that I can take absolutely everything that someone from YouTube says just through my own lens. It comes through their lens. So what they reminded me is that those little messages in the dashboard do have to be dumbed down a fair bit to make it easy for the lowest common denominator YouTuber to understand. And also that the recommendation system is really centered around individual viewers, not around creators. When you upload a video, YouTube doesn't go, oh, there's some juicy new content. How can I get viewers to come look at it? Instead, it works the other way. When you log on to YouTube, YouTube goes, ooh, a juicy new viewer. What will they watch? And it goes and it finds things from its content library and it serves it to them. It feeds them. So with that in mind, if somebody is consistently using an ad blocker, then that will skew their consumption recommendation relationship with the YouTube algorithm. And yes, Luke, I know exactly where you're going with this. What if there are certain channels that they predominantly watch on desktop? And that's where, them having their YouTube hat means that they're not going to necessarily think about or care that much about that being kind of a big deal to someone like me, for instance, because there are certain types of content that I'm way more likely to watch on TV and certain types of content that I'm way more likely to watch on my phone.
Like you might watch, if you were into football, you might watch NFL content on your TV more than pretty much any other device, because that's where that has been normalized for you over time. If you're on your computer thinking about computer stuff, you might be more likely to watch tech content. These are assumptions, but I think they're fairly rational.